Well, it's time now for Mediawatch. James Creedon is here, and he's going to talk a bit more about the Dutch elections. We were just looking at that report and what happened last night. Everyone was expecting a big shock victory for Geert Wilders. He didn't manage to pull it off, and he did less well than expected. A lot of people are relieved about that today, aren't they?
That's right. Just a quick look at some of the reactions, because we've been seeing them really since yesterday evening, and they've been coming in today as well. The Dutch waking up with relief on this sunny day, says this member of a Dutch think tank. The problem is that there is still a super Wilders in the USA. So a degree of relief, but also, I suppose, a realisation that it's not all, safe in terms of the rise of populism being behind one. Wilders at 13%. Populism seems to have peaked in the Netherlands, and what he's saying here is that this bodes well for France and Germany, where elections later this year, well, very, very shortly in France, also have a risk of a strong populist vote. Dutch elections, I'm not Dutch, but their election results have given me hope. Thank you for saying no to hate and bigotry. A lot of comments like that across social media today. And of course, then there were the official reactions from the German Foreign Ministry, welcoming this, from François Hollande this morning, warmly congratulating the Dutch government and saying that this is a real victory against extremism.
Even though the Dutch Socialist Party got an absolute beating.
Hammering.
The Green Left, though, did very well, didn't they? The Dutch Justin Trudeau, they're calling him,
right.
Clever, he did extremely well.
That's
party.
right, and I suppose the party systems, those balances, the balance that has been there for decades, is really beginning to fall away now. There's one article actually that speaks about that. Yasha Monk, writing for Slate.com, says, we were saying, the rising wave of populism, etc. Well, actually, it's not so much that the rising wave of populism has been...
it's a rise in anti-establishment parties.
That's right.
And that is very different.
That's right. And as you said, the Social Democratic Party in the Netherlands has plummeted from 25% to 6%. And we're seeing that across the board. And as Yasha Monk points out in this article, if you look at the most European countries, there were two major parties, one kind of social democrat.
Centre-left and centre-right.
Centre-right. And it was the same in the year 2000 as it was in the 1960s. So over 40 years, it didn't really change that much. And now that is utterly changing. And what you're also seeing emerging, and this is perhaps the real hallmark of change, is perhaps the rise of parties associated with immigrants. Now, there was a party in the Dutch elections called Think, and it was a party. Essentially, it was a Turkish party of associated with Turkish migrants. And what Yasha Monk is saying here is that this has been maybe the sleeping dog in European politics. There have been no parties associated specifically with immigrant communities up to now. It was actually the stuff of a book written by Michel Houellebecq here in France, a book called Submission.
Submission, yes.
Where he imagined a sort of I suppose a French Muslim party rising and actually getting the presidency.
Getting to the second round against the far right.
That's right. And Yasha Monk is saying, could we begin, with the collapse of mainstream parties in Europe, could we now be seeing a space emerging for the rise in maybe identity politics parties associated with immigrant minorities, etc. So that's one piece of analysis coming out of it. I suppose the major theme coming out of most of the opinion pieces is that just because populism has been stemmed in the Netherlands, that doesn't necessarily mean the same thing will follow in France, for example. The Economist says that it's too soon to sort of celebrate the rollback of populism. The French political system is much more rigid. It has shut out the National Front at nearly all levels of government for years, despite rising popular support. So there could now be a breakthrough in the presidential election, and perhaps too soon to be getting optimistic. Over at Politico.eu, they're maybe a little bit more keen on the feel-good factor. They're saying the good news now is that it's safe, again, to ignore Dutch politics. And we can...
Never before has a Dutch election been so closely.
It's got a lot of attention across the EU and everywhere. Right. But for all the talk of growing Euroscepticism, the reality is most Europeans do still support the EU. So that's the takeaway at Politico.eu.
Yeah, that was another big theme people were looking at, wasn't it?
But I suppose one big lesson in this article, voter turnout is key. What we saw with the Brexit referendum, that there was very, very high turnout for those who were in favour of Brexit. So I suppose lazy and progressives, if they're a little bit fearful, this could be a good thing. It could be a good takeaway from the Dutch election.
Get them out to vote.
High voter turnout. That's what we saw in the Dutch elections.
And I guess the opinion polls have clawed back some of their reputation as well with this vote.
That's right.
All right.
So maybe some good takeaways.
James, thank you very much indeed.
Thanks
James Creedon there with Mediawatch. Now,